Okay, so firstly, before we start this off, I wanted to say a big thank you to all of you wonderful people out there who checked out the last video on the Canucks and who actually commented Utica Moose in the comments. I saw some people getting confused. Why are people commenting Utica Moose? People were saying Utica Heat. There was a whole bunch of stuff over there, but long story short, I told the people at the end of the video who had stuck around to the end to comment Utica Moose, so you let me know just the fact that you did make it to the end, because yesterday's topic was very heavy, in my opinion at least, because it was me taking a look at the Vancouver Canucks fan base as a whole and criticizing a big part of the fan base who goes out there and, for lack of a better word, straight up just overvalues a lot of the prospects we have. The main problem I saw was that people were talking about Nils Hoglander as a guy who could have an Elias Pettersson-like impact in the NHL immediately, and I was like, no, that's not happening. I'd love for that to happen, but if Hoglander came into the NHL and was just under a point per game like Pettersson was, then I'll eat my hat. Okay, no, I won't actually eat my hat because that's something that would like to happen, but I'm using that to illustrate the point that I don't think it's possible for Hoglander to score Pettersson rates immediately after making the NHL. But it was a commentary that was well received, and I saw a lot of people kind of agreeing with what I was saying, so I very much appreciate the actual sentiment of those who watched till the end and the ones who actually commented and acknowledged what it was that I was saying. So, for this video, we're going over a different topic about the Vancouver Canucks, talking about Tyler Toffoli. And you know I love talking about Tyler Toffoli. It breaks my heart every time I talk about it. I just made an LA Kings video where we talked about Tyler Madden, how this guy is going to be a very good NHL player as time goes on. But, you know, even though Tyler Madden is no longer a Vancouver Canucks prospect, the guy whom we acquired in the trade, Tyler Toffoli, is not either. So I just wanted to make this one video talking about Tyler Toffoli because when it comes to the loss of Toffoli, a lot of Canucks fans would go out there and talk about how, oh, Tyler Toffoli was a 25, 30 potential goal scorer, a top 6 guy who could go out there, do his thing, score some goals. I said this in the video where he was acquired by Montreal in the free agency signing, but Toffoli doesn't really play the best defensive game. He doesn't really dazzle with the puck on his stick a lot. He's not really the guy that you send out there to pick it up in his own zone, skate it up, deke out the pants of a few guys, sauce it out in front after crossing the blue line and finding an open man on the side to score a goal. Toffoli is the guy whom you give the goal to. He is a lethal goal scorer who knows where to be, right time, right place. He gets the puck off on a hurry. Doesn't really have the puck on his stick often, but when he does, it's usually followed by being in the back of the net or on the tape of somebody else. And he's a guy who really was good at that, which is why, understandably so, a lot of Canucks fans were really upset when they didn't keep him, especially seeing the contract he signed with the Montreal Canadiens. Because the way the Canucks are shaped up, you know, they're basically really heavy on the bottom 6. Eriksson, Beagle, Sutter, Roussel, all these guys making like, what, $15 million combined or whatever? I can't do math off the top of my head. But they're very expensive players, and they cost the Canucks in signing guys who could very much do damage in their top 6, like Tyler Toffoli. But I wanted to make this video to talk about what exactly Tyler Toffoli meant to the Canucks. Because when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks and how good they were in 2019-20, they quite literally built themselves up to be in a winning position without Tyler Toffoli. Because if you remember what happened with the Vancouver Canucks, Brock Boeser ended up getting injured again, like sometime in February. And the Vancouver Canucks' response to that claim was to trade for Tyler Toffoli, a guy who could help them make it into the playoffs and do some damage. Now, there are some very good arguments talking about why it was flawed, the fact that they even made this trade, which we'll get into towards the end of the video, but Tyler Toffoli was acquired by Vancouver to be the Brock Boeser replacement because Boeser was out of the lineup again for an extended period of time. And by the time everything settled down, hey, he had 10 points in 10 games. We were going into the playoffs. Return to play was all here. Boeser is here. So is Toffoli. And then Toffoli got injured again against Minnesota. He played a game. The Canucks lost. And then he rejoined the team against the Vegas Golden Knights. And I'll tell you this. Tyler Toffoli, while being a very, very good, valuable asset for this team, had nothing to do with the success of the Canucks at that time frame. And furthermore, he didn't really have too much to do with the majority of the Canucks' success in the regular season. Because when the Vancouver Canucks acquired Tyler Toffoli, it was February 17th, 2020. If you go over to the NHL standings then, the Vancouver Canucks were third in the Pacific, with the fewest games played in the Pacific. Take a look at this. The Vegas Golden Knights, number 1, with 70 points in 61 games. The Oilers, number 2, with 70 points in 59 games. That's actually flawed. It should be the other way around, because the games played. But the Canucks were an undisputed third, in front of Calgary, in front of Arizona, in front of San Jose, Anaheim, and LA, and they did all of that without Tyler Toffoli. In fact, if you take a look at just the Canadian teams, because we're going to have a Canadian division for next year, take a look at Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa. Yeah, the Canucks were ahead of most of them as well. Not Toronto. Toronto had 70 points, the Canucks had 69. But the Habs had 62, the Sens had 51. Habs actually did really improve a lot, though, so I'll give them credit there. And the Winnipeg Jets had 65 points. Again, they improved as well, which is definitely something to note. But Edmonton, Calgary, etc., they're also in this boat too. So the Vancouver Canucks at this point last year were still really competitive, even though they didn't acquire Toffoli. And they did that because they lost Boeser. Even in the postseason, Tyler Toffoli played 1 game against Minnesota. He skipped out on the entire Minnesota comeback, where the Canucks ended up winning 3 straight. Okay, they eliminate Minnesota in overtime. Chris Tanev, R.I.P. Calgary Canucks over there. And then against St. Louis, the Canucks defeated Jordan Binnington without Toffoli too. Now, Toffoli did make a great debut in Game 2 against the Vegas Golden Knights. He's kind of the reason why they won. But the rest of the series, we all kind of know what happened. The Canucks won a few games because Thatcher Demko stood in his head. Tyler Toffoli had 1 goal in the next 5 games played, which isn't ideal, but, you know, it happened. So what I'm trying to say here is, even though the Vancouver Canucks lost out on Tyler Toffoli, the fact is, he didn't really have a huge part in how exactly this Canucks team was able to win last year anyway. On that right side in your top 6, you have Brock Boeser, and I guess you can have that Loui Eriksson as well, because, you know, the top 6 was Miller, Petey, Boeser, and then Pearson, Horvat, Eriksson. Hopefully Hoglander takes that spot. But last year, we had that lineup, and we won games, and we put ourselves in a position where we were third in the Pacific by the time Tyler Toffoli was acquired. Without Tyler Toffoli, the Canucks beat St. Louis. Without Tyler Toffoli, the Canucks beat Minnesota. And now, it does kind of speak a lot of volume to the idea that I think it was Harmondale on TSN 1040 said, as to the fact that the Canucks, in a position of uncertainty as to whether or not they would be a contender or whatever, they made a contender-like move back in February acquiring Tyler Toffoli. It cost them a second-round pick. It cost them Tyler Madden, even though that's the kind of move that contenders make when they want to push themselves over the hump into winning Stanley Cup territory. Now, you could say the Canucks were a lot better than people thought they would be in the postseason, but the fact remains, this team was still a team that wasn't able to keep the big 3 that they had because they were coming off of contracts that are just so heavy on the bottom 6. The Canucks have one of the weakest bottom 6s in terms of their overall dollar amount in the NHL. And the fact is, this was a team that was fresh out of the reins of being a rebuilding team. So, who's to say that a big, gutsy, okay, we'll trade a prospect, a pick for Tyler Toffoli kind of move is an appropriate one to make in that time frame? That was an argument made on TSN, which is why a lot of people were really upset about the idea of the trade. Not the trade itself. The trade was great. The Canucks got a 10-point and 10-game kind of player who actually helped them out in Game 2 against Vegas. But aside from that, the position the Canucks were in at that time frame was indeed somewhat questionable. And as a result, hey, they still ended up giving us some stuff to cheer about. Hopefully a lot of Canucks fans don't think that second-round exits are the norm for the Vancouver Canucks now, because even though we did finally win a playoff series for the first time in 9 years since 2011, this team still isn't done yet. There's more developing to go through, there's more production to go through, there's more additions to be made, and there's more young guys to be added onto this squad. I'm making my bold prediction right now. A bottom 6 with Brandon Sutter, Loui Eriksson, Jay Beagle, and Anton Roussel is not winning the Stanley Cup. I'm saying that right here. It's probably something that I'm probably going to bite myself for in a year, because hopefully in a best-case scenario, the Canucks win a cup next year, but that's just kind of my stake in the ground right here. This bottom 6 is not winning us a cup. And I know you don't win the cup with the bottom 6, but you get what I mean, right? A team with this setup, in my opinion, is not good enough to win the Stanley Cup yet. So once these guys are all out, we have ourselves an opportunity to do more. And even last year, without Tyler Toffoli, there was still a whole bunch of stuff to cheer about, a whole bunch of success, a whole bunch of playoff series victories, and it just kind of makes the Tyler Madden thing sting a little bit more, because it's like, oh, did we really need Tyler Toffoli? Toffoli helped us win a few games when Boeser was out, so I guess there was a really good reason back then, but Tyler Madden, man. I miss him. Talk to me in the comments what you think about this weird video topic. Comment in the comments below, Kalamazoo World War II. And the reason we're going to talk about that is because the Kalamazoo Wings were the Vancouver Canucks ECHL affiliate, and we're talking about World War II because the Canucks mascot Johnny Canuck was a political figure used in World War II by Canadian comic book artists. So talk to me in the comments about that stuff. Comment down below, Kalamazoo World War II. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that's Trolls99, and bye.